are glad that you're here with us today. I'm Dan Heitzenreiter with the Chamber of Commerce, and I see many familiar faces and friends in the room. And want to start this program like we do every program. I think you all know two groups of people I want to thank today. We want to thank all of you who are in the room. Obviously, events like this would not be possible without people who are interested in our community, engaged in our community, and supportive of the Chamber. And also our sponsors, who their support is a major source of revenue that enables the Chamber to do the work we do throughout the community for our businesses and organizations. And we have a fantastic list of sponsors today. You'll see their logos have been up on the screen over here, as well as on the table tents. But I want to give them all a shout out. So I'm going to read through the list, and if we could please thank them after we get through the list. But thank you today for supporting our program: Brooks TLC Hospital System, Kaleida Health, Chautauqua Harbor Hotel, Chautauqua Institution, Community Bank, County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency, DFT Communications, Jamestown Community College, Jamestown Mattress Company, Labella Associates, Media One Radio Group, National Grid, Observer, Phillips Lytle, The Post-Journal, Southern Chautauqua Federal Credit Union, Southern Tier Environments for Living, and UPMC Chautauqua. Please support them. They support us. Please give them a round of applause. We also have a few dignitaries with us today. In addition to our special guest, the county executive, we have our a few county legislators. I want to recognize Lisa Vanstrom in the room. Lisa, thank you. Also want to recognize Phil Landy. Phil, thank you. We also have our Chautauqua County Sheriff with us this morning, Jim Quattrone. Sheriff, thank you. And we also have a representative from Congressman Langworthy's office with us, Christine Rinaldi. Christine. We also have a few local officials with us who do a very important job in our towns and villages as well. Want to recognize the Mayor of Bemis Point, Mr. Jeff Molnar. Thanks, Jeff. And our Town of Chautauqua Supervisor, Don M. Hart. Don. All right. We also have some Chamber board members in the room. They are sort of this third group that I often like to try to thank and recognize. Their guidance provided to myself and the team is great and helps steer the ship. And I want to recognize those with us today. First, John Felton, right over here. Thanks, John. Also, Stephen Collison, Dr. Collison. Brian Pender, over at the Brian table, and Amy Rogers. And part of that third group, the Chamber team, of course, is our Chamber staff, and I want to give a huge shout out to our team, who are obviously a critical part of making all of our events and services possible as well. We have seated right in front here Dave Kleperick. Dave, thank you, round of applause. We have Becky Vody. Thanks, Becky. By the way, Becky Vody is the one responsible for the long list of sponsorships today, in addition to the generous companies who committed to us. So if you are interested in sponsoring a future event, look up Becky Vody. Yeah. Also, we have Carrie Swanson somewhere, possibly out at the table, over here. All right. As well as Sheila Webster. Thank you, Sheila. So I had the opportunity, as many of you know, to work in county government before my time at the Chamber, specifically to work in the county executive's office. And as I was thinking this morning about today's breakfast, it's interesting the differences between, we do our state breakfast every year, the federal breakfast every year, and the county breakfast. And the state and federal breakfast and state and federal government in general, I think, focus so much on policy, right? And then a lot of agencies at those levels are focused on implementation or enforcement of those policies, but I always felt working in county government that was really the level where the rubber starts to meet the road and you provide services to the people in your community. So, very excited for today's conversation with the county executive, and with that, PJ Wendel, please come join me. There you go. All right, thanks for the step up. All right. So before the county executive gives us some opening remarks, I want to remind everyone, if you are not familiar with our breakfast series, the way that we run the program here is I have a few topics to kind of get the conversation with the county executive going, but you'll see there's green cards at each place setting on the table. So if you have a question you'd like to ask or something you'd like to get into the conversation here, please write it on the comment card. That is very important because if we don't get any questions, it makes my job much more difficult and I have to
So I want to steal the show for just a second. So as Danny said, he did work in the executive's office. He was my executive assistant when I first came in and was a great asset. I can't say enough about Danny and all he did. But the very first, I'll tell you a little story about Danny as to where he is now. So I've always encouraged my staff to do the best you can. And if that means stepping out of the office, that means stepping out of the office. If that means seeking another job, one of our staff members, I said, I don't want to see you sitting in this same position in 20 years. Your attention to detail, everything you do is just so valuable. And she's moved on, and that's fine. Well, Danny came in to me one day and he goes, I need to talk to you. And he said, well, I applied for this job with the chamber, thinking, okay, I have to take a day off for an interview. He's like, they offered me the job. I'm like, I was trying to wait, it just kind of caught me off guard. But that shows the type of leadership we have, especially in the county executive's office, to where, Danny, we talked before and obviously was a huge asset, but, within 1 minute, he's working, with county government, and now all of a sudden he's really now, becoming the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. What was I supposed to say? No, Dan, I want you to stay as my executive for the next 8 years or however long I'm in office, and then you can go somewhere else. But hats off to Dan. And really, all of you involved with the chamber, what a great job Danny does. So, just a round of applause for Dan. What he's done, stepped in, done a super job.
Thank you, PJ. Much appreciated. With that, if you have anything else you want to say about me that's positive, we can keep going there.
What can you say? He's impeccable. His shoes. So there's a thing now. So a couple of us, we have a New York State County Executives Association, and to be honest, we're somewhat critical when people come in, and they walk in, and the first thing we do, some of us, is look at your belt and your shoes. If they match, great. If they don't, okay. And then, he was a leader, but one day Bill de Blasio came in to talk to the county executives, because ironically, and Greg could share this little bit of trivia. The mayor of New York City is actually a county executive because he does lead the 5 boroughs, and so when we talk, we usually address him as county executive. But he came in to talk to us, and it looked like his shoes, I don't know, it looked like something it was just cracks in the leather, and they weren't even polished. And realistically, everybody looked like, do you see your shoes? And I guess he's just focused on other things. So. But Danny's always got impeccable shoes and socks. If you ever look at Dan, and we do compare each other. Cole Haan, and Senator Brello too. Don't let him fool you. We have this little shoe thing going. So that's a positive. So go ahead.
All right. Enough time. So first, I just want to kick it to you. As you know, we usually do an opening statement. I think this year is especially timely with the state of the county coming up next Wednesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
So. Before we dive into topics and questions, just a little chance to give us kind of any general updates you'd like to talk about and a little preview of the state of the county.
Well, the state of the county is solid. I can't say anything more. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of optimism. We live CHQ, choose CHQ, just got rolled out this week. And like I told everybody, and I have to correct myself, as a tendency, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, so that's your train of thought. But what I've told people is weather in Chautauqua County goes from the west to the east. So if you look on the map, and the graphic that they put up when they were given the presentation is migration or population decline went from the west to the east. You know, New York City just realized 78,000 people have left New York City. Suffolk and Long Island and Suffolk and Nassau counties have often just admitted we are losing population out in Long Island. So I've said, you know, the trend of population went from the west to the east. Well, the pendulum is going to swing, and we're going to start to bring people back from the west to the east. Live CHQ, Choose CHQ is a phenomenal talent attraction and retention program that I can't say enough about. It's just great. But you look at things, the investment we've made. We're going to talk a little bit when we talk about, you know, finances with the county. We're in a very solid financial position. You look at our job growth. You know, we have some people that are critical. We want to know exactly how many jobs, but you know, when you look at, you know, 700 jobs in the last year, retaining, you know, 2 or 3 times that number, that's important. You know, the investment, the community investment, you know, what we're doing as far as, you know, involvement. The other piece, I don't want to steal the show because, I mean, there's a lot of, tune in. It's going to be on, you know, our YouTube page, but it's really exciting. There's a lot of great things going on at Chautauqua County. And like I said, the last couple of days when I've been going with the team with promoting our new, the new campaign for retention and attraction, you know, I get to be the cheerleader of Chautauqua County. I get to tell everybody all the amazing things. 27 towns, 13 villages, 2 cities, and I tell it thanks to Justin. There are 8 hamlets that I didn't know about. And it was a trivia game one night. He said, how many towns? I'm like, I know this. And then, how many hamlets? Oh, come on, man. I had no idea. So I love it. State of the county is great. I'm really proud to say that, and we're really excited. You know, you look at tax base. Our tax rate is as low as it was in 1982. So think about that. Back to the Future hadn't even come out yet. Mike Tyson wasn't even a formidable fighter. I mean, and we say those things that they've already come and gone, but we're back to a tax rate as low as it was. And if it wasn't for an anomaly around that time, we had to go back to the 1970s to where we saw a tax rate as low as it is right now. So really good financial positions.
Very good, thank you. You know, the first question that came in, I think, is a good one to start with here. And obviously, I didn't, you know, seek your bio and give a long intro about you and your background. So take this opportunity. The question is, what is your background before becoming county executive?
My background. Yeah, what wasn't my background, to be honest with you? So where I started out, migrated here. You hear me say this when I talk about Cummins Engine. My dad was born in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Kingston, actually. And small world, I was talking to one of our FBI agents, and we were actually born in the same hospital, a couple years difference. But born in Kingston, Pennsylvania, family moved to Hagerstown, Maryland. Grew up there for about, it seemed like an eternity, it was only like 3 years. And we came here with Cummins Engine in 1977. And I've been here ever since. Graduated from Southwestern. Yeah, I was talking with our table this morning. You know, my children were very blessed with having multiple opportunities of colleges. I had 2, and I was an athlete, so I chose the one where they were going to accept me and I could wrestle. Had a great career. It was at Brockport. I left, I had a degree in physical education, became a teacher. Got into teaching for 25 years, went back and got a master's degree in human performance, sports studies, and then as I was teaching, went back and got a master's degree in educational leadership. So I tell everybody I've got a bachelor's, 2 masters, and $2.63 I get Tim Hortons large black coffee. But it just gives me a wealth of experience. I've been in the volunteer fire service for 35 years. I was an EMT for 30 years, worked at the hospital in the ER. I was an ER tech for about 7 or 8 years. That's where I met my wife. So when I talk about things, when I sit behind my desk as county executive, we each, and when I say we, as a former county executives, we each brought a different skill set. So I like to think I was a little bit more of a renaissance. I just did a lot of things. You know, it's ironic. I was out, it was a weird night. The light blew in my car, so I had to go replace the headlight in my truck. And the guy's like, you don't have somebody that does that for you? I'm like, no, I replaced my own headlights. Then I went to get gas, and they're like, PJ Wendel. I'm like, yeah, and he goes, because it was a young person, I go, did I have you as a student? He goes, no, you're the county executive. Wow, you do this? I'm like, I pump my own gas, yes. And I get my own groceries. If you want to catch me outside of the office Sunday mornings between 10 and noon, you'll always find me at Wegmans. But I guess that's a little bit about me. You know, I'll tell everybody here and share this. You know, if you somebody said to me yesterday at the Fredoni Opera House, I don't know how to address you. It's PJ. Yes, there's a title of county executive, but I am still the same person. I like to think I haven't changed. My skin's gotten thicker as you get into this job. I learned to roll with the punches. Things that may have gotten really under my skin at the beginning, it's kind of like, okay, we'll go with it. So that's a little bit about me. I still engage. I've been still in the volunteer fire service. Last week I was out rescuing a submerged boat. To me, that's what's fun, that I could just kind of escape what I do day to day and get back to the fun stuff. Firefighting's fun. If you think about it, there's hundreds of men and women around this county that do that, but to a sad note, it's like when you hear, fire, everybody gets excited and flies out the door, and Jeff and Don are laughing because they know exactly what's going on, and anybody else who's a fireman, it's that adrenaline rush, and you don't wish somebody bad, but it's a chance to test your skills and to see how good you are and how fast you can put that fire out, how you can save lives, how you can save buildings. So it's an exciting challenge, but that's me in a nutshell. I'm just your average guy. I do want to say this, I don't want to say blame. If there's somebody who really kind of engaged my career, it was Greg Edwards. And a couple years ago, at a breakfast, so I watch what I say at these events now, it was at the Rod and Gun Club, and I called out then Assemblyman Bill Parment and asked a question. And it was a case when the budget was getting whacked from the state, and Greg was facing an uphill battle with, I think, 17 or 20 some $1 million reduction in state aid. And I said to the Assemblyman, I go, if this started 20 years ago and you've been there 29, why don't you feel you're kind of part of the problem, right? Well, the legislature was like, who is this guy? And I scratched my head inadvertently. I don't have hair, right? So I wasn't scratching. But they said, wow, that's exactly what he does when he didn't know the answer to a question. So then they thought I was making fun of him, which I had no idea. But at that time, Greg called me and said, have you ever thought about running for the assembly? I'm like, I'm a trustee in Lakewood. Yeah, all right, why not, right? Then I realized just what it took. And so at that point, they said, if you want to get to that county or a large job, or that role, you need to be, you need to get your name out there more, and the county is the next stop. So that's where I'm at. I was at the county legislature. I was 2 years, run-of-the-mill legislator, which really isn't run-of-the-mill, but after the first term, I was assistant majority leader, then I was majority leader and chairman of the legislature. And it's not a progression, so if something were to happen to me today, it doesn't mean Pierre Chagnon's going to be the next county executive. There is no really succession plan. It's just how it worked. But that's where I'm at.
Very good. So last year when we had the opportunity to talk, it was National Donut Day, and we learned your favorite donut. Today, unfortunately, there's not any really great national holidays. I looked last night, there's nothing good on the calendar. But I thought we could ask, at our Business After Hours networking events, we've been having a lot of fun with sort of a branding exercise where we ask each business if their business was represented by a something, and we change the topic every time, what would it be? So I thought, let's use our question from this month when we were out at Mazza Winery. Our question was, if your business was represented by a drink, what would that drink be? And just to help you out and give everyone an idea, the Chamber of Commerce, we decided, would be coffee, because the Chamber is the caffeine to help boost your business, right? So if Chautauqua County government was a drink, what might Chautauqua County be?
And I think it can't be one drink. I think if you look at it, we're Celsius, right? We're an energy. We're here to support the county. We're milk. One, to our agricultural heritage, but two, the solid foundation. That's here. It stands the test of time, just much like Coke is or Pepsi. Gatorade. We're there to kind of replenish when things go bad. Some days it's a nice simple white wine. Other days you might need something a little harder. And my staff knows, if it's a moderate day, it's great. But I often tend to plan that if it's a great day, by 3 or 4 o'clock, be prepared. Something's going to happen. The wheels are going to come off. And you think about what's gone on since I've been in office. We've had, unfortunately, 3 plane crashes. We had the Salman Rushdie. A little story about that. The night before, we had a plane crash in Asheville. Nobody got seriously hurt. And I was there. I'm like, wow, this is, you kind of think, okay, this is your big thing for the week or the month. And we had a great meeting the next morning. And then, as it stands, I didn't realize, I was watching the 60 Minutes episode, I was right outside the door when it happened, and had the I have a police and fire radio because of my involvement in the fire service. And it said, Chautauqua got dispatched to a stabbing victim on the amphitheater. I'm like, I'm right there. There's the door. And I pulled the car up and ran in the back, and you're there. I got thrust in the middle of an international incident. So the drink, it's really we're everything. Just whatever, kind of fits the mood. We're there to support you. We're there to help you grow. With Milk, we're there to relax you. We're there always with you, and we're always that stable piece of Americana.
Very good. Thanks for indulging my question. And if anybody's interested in, joining that fun, we'll be out at Music for Your Mouth in Mayville in May. So, another reminder, quick, on the question cards. If anybody has thought of anything, please hold it up. So I think a good sort of topic to dive into first, you mentioned just generally about the county budget. So I don't know if you could give us a little snapshot of the county financial position, and then I have a follow-up question that came in related to the budget.
Snapshot. I tell you what, it's a movie, it's a documentary, it's a love story. I mean, you think about where we're at. The lowest tax rate since 1982. 4 budgets I've presented, all 4 have had a tax rate reduction. The first one was unique because I had a rate reduction, and it was during COVID, and people were like, you're crazy. And Chuck Nazaro was a great financier, and Chuck, a longtime legislator, and he said, I'd be leery about this, and we were very cautious, and Kitty Crow is my backbone when it comes to finance and the budget. And they presented, we can do a rate reduction, and they were nervous. And lo and behold, what was unknown to a lot of us at the time was it was the first year, although COVID was hitting, it was the first year that we were allowing online purchases to be taxed. So all of a sudden, our sales tax was kind of through the roof, and other counties were like, where'd this come from? And it was that taxable thing. I just want to share something with you. Talking about county finance, and Kitty Crow, our director of finance, is in the back. She was the budget director for many years before assuming the role of finance director. We are involved with a group called 3+1. Joel Rolson is the executive director of that company. And they reached out to us several years ago, and we got involved in how to make our money work for us. So they did a scoring system, and they never expected anybody to get above a 95. Well, guess what? We did. So we won an award nationally with their group. And we represented 3+1. Great. Well, how many years, Kitty? 4 years consecutively? She's very humble. 3 or 4 years. I mean, so they never thought anybody would get above a 95. So Joe's like, okay, I guess I have to change our grading system. Well, then we got 100. They're like, yeah, we don't know what to do now. You guys are doing a great job. And it came to a point I think they had to give it to somebody else because we were just doing such a good job. But because of that, and this is something really interesting that I think most people don't know. So along with that, we've been involved in something called the New York Muni Trust, the municipal trust. So what we've done is New York State, with the guidance of Steve Aquario, the executive director of NYSAC, we created this trust where people, counties, and municipalities can use their cash on hand to make money for yourself. Having said that, Kitty did a great job of investing. She's one of our board members. She's one of the founders of the Muni Trust. So she's, again, a rock star in that fashion. Our money through ARPA has made us over $1 million. So that investment for county taxpayers has paid dividends for you. $800,000 of that was put into last year's budget. So taking the money, making a wise investment, and letting our cash work for us, we have now allowed not only that $800,000 to be used in the budget, but monies remaining also goes back into our ARPA funds, and we're able to do more with those ARPA dollars. So 24.6 million, I think, was the ARPA funds, and then we ended up getting more, maybe closer to 25 million. I'm not sure the exact total, but those monies have also worked for us. And was proud to announce that over half of our ARPA investment was based or promoting economic development in the county. So again, great job with our finances. They're in a very solid position. Some are critical. Our fund balance is too high, but at the end, we just don't know what's going to happen. We have a very flexible economy right now. We just don't know what's going to happen. We're really not out of the woods. Analysts are really nervous, so we're prepared.
Very good. So the question that came in is, although you're prepared, is there anything that's in the current 2024 budget, or as you're looking out to the budget season this fall for next year's budget, that is concerning or something you're watching?
I guess we're just watching our spending, right? We just don't. We budget well. We've had success. We're very cautious in budgeting our sales tax revenue. Obviously, with the we did notice, last Monday we had that solar eclipse, right? There were an influx of residents coming in. There were people in hotels, so we're going to see an influx in sales tax revenue, an influx of an occupancy tax. But I guess we're just really on the lookout for anything that can, any curveball. Obviously, there's a lot of concern right now, and let's face it, we have defense contractors in Chautauqua County. We have people that make bomb casings, and they're looking at $1 billion missiles being a deal possibly being brokered with Israel. So what's happening in the Middle East could eventually, if not inevitably, directly affect Chautauqua County and businesses in our county. So those things we look at, and how will that affect our county? But how would a massive regional global war affect? And it does. It trickles down, to county governments from the federal level to the state. So we're just always on the lookout, ready for that. Like anything else, you're just ready for that bomb to drop. And with our financial position, I think we're able to handle that.
Very good. Speaking about sort of current day threats and things like that, question, in an area of increased attention to cybersecurity, what has the county done to be safe? Is there anything on the cybersecurity front? Well,
right in the back, I have my staff here, multiple Lou's, but in the back, I'm going to direct this right now to John D'Angelo. He's our IT director. John's been working on cybersecurity. As I'm a board of director for NYMER, cybersecurity is something we look at from an insurance standpoint all the time. But I learned one thing. You'll hear me quote this book. It worked for me in life and leadership, from Colin Powell. And I realized that I've hired some great people and I let them do their job. John is my guru, and I know we've had several talks on cybersecurity. The county is ahead of the curve, I think, on this. But you never know, right? You got people that sit around and just think this stuff up, right? They sit in their basements. Who knows? They could be in, they can be in Tbilisi, Soviet Georgia. They could be in Lakewood, New York. I'm gonna sit there and try to create some scheme that, these aren't, this isn't coming from these mega tech companies. These are from people sitting in basements in these dark areas that create this stuff. Think about if their minds were able to work on something positive, where we'd be. But we have those elements that just want to divert. But I think I don't want to jinx it, or some wood. I think we're in a very sound position right now for cybersecurity. But you never know, as John will tell you. Every day is a new threat. So we do a lot of training with cybersecurity. We do a lot of training, how to properly use the internet, phishing, right? We've done some things and some tests, but everybody be careful. Just if you see something that isn't right, don't go there. That's what I've learned from my training. And I'll tell you what, we do a lot of, our cyber security training was one of the hardest trainings. If anybody worked, we're all shaking their head. You had to take this test like 4 or 5 times to get it right. It's tough, but it's good in the fact that it really made us focus on what we're doing. So, we're set, but again, I don't want to jinx us, because, you look at Suffolk County. Lisa Black was a deputy county executive, a good friend of mine, and she's now kind of touring saying, what did Suffolk County do to correct? They had a massive cyber attack that crippled that county for a long time, and they're still kind of rallying back. So I think we're in a good spot. I'm confident in John and his abilities, but every day is a new challenge.
Right. So shift the conversation a little bit to sort of community health, healthcare, and we had a question that came in, but before I ask that, I was talking to my friend Ken Morris with Brooks Hospital earlier, and of course, I think a lot of that issue and decision is a level above the county, but do you have any news or info on that?
I wish I did. I'm like Alfred E. Newman. I don't know anymore. We're in constant contact with the state. We support this 100%. And I've said this. I've been very bold, and I've talked to Bonnie Lockwood. In fact, I was actually with the governor at the mansion during our NISAC conference, and we got to talking about it. I said, "There's 2 headlines, Governor," and she goes, "I know. You've expressed those. Governor saves healthcare in Northern Chautauqua County, or governor walks away and abandons healthcare in Northern Chautauqua County." That's where we're at. These monies, as we're told, are sitting in the governor's office. We've heard that it was, senators or assemblymen that are holding it back. That's not founded right now. It's sitting in the governor's office. She's got to release that funding, and Ken could tell you, when you look at things right now, so they talk about sustainability, and the state's been subsidizing, but if they were to build a new building, those subsidies drop because there's a lot of maintenance and overhead that has to go in. So we're telling them we've all signed on. The legislature has all signed on to this. Every representative of the state, I'm not sure if the congressman signed on. I believe he did. I know both of our state and representatives did. So give us some money. I mean, we're ready to go. It's sitting on our desk. We just keep asking. I don't know what it's going to take. I really don't. And we're all in the same boat because inflation's changing, right? The money that was dedicated a couple years ago hopefully is going to be enough to get it across the line. But she's got to release the funds. That's bottom line.
Very good. So other healthcare facilities in Chautauqua County, nursing homes, question, can you or are you doing anything to address the nursing home crisis kind of unfolding in the area?
We're working. I guess it's a challenge, right? One of the things that's happening are the Medicaid reimbursement rates. That's a state and federal level. I'm not trying to kick the can down the road, but these are things that are really hitting these nursing homes. Not to mention we have an influx because obviously, as you say, population decline, then people aren't here to take care of their elder, family members. So in some cases they don't have a choice but to put them in a residence. And some of them, and even young people, are infirmed and end up in nursing home care. But a lot of it has to do with the reimbursement rates and the such. So, Governor Cuomo made some pretty brash changes to the Medicaid policy and reimbursement. But whatever we can do to fight to get those reimbursement rates up, it's really what we need to do. Obviously it's a shock when we hear things that nursing homes have to close, that people are going to be relocated, et cetera. The last one I think fared well, but it's not to say we're complacent with it. It's nothing we want to see, but it's a changing environment and it's a challenging one. And I know that the Medicaid, healthcare in this country is it's ridiculous. When we're looking at things right now, the savings we had in changing our healthcare plan is gone in 2 or 3 years. What we saved in going to a high deductible, the savings isn't there anymore because the cost of healthcare has gone up. So it's a challenge, but we're there to assist you.
All right, one more sort of health-related topic that I think's been on the agenda, kind of a standing item, right, is mental health, substance abuse, and I know that is a lengthy topic in and of itself. But are there any updates kind of there before we move to a different area?
Well, let me tell you what, we've got some great people in our mental health staff and substance abuse, addiction services. We do have our new public health director, Lacey Wilson, is here with us today. She's done a tremendous job coming in, has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and really has a unique public health perspective that is kind of taking us in a new direction. But we also have Carmela Hernandez and Trish McLennan. So Cecil sitting here, we stole Trish from UPMC Chautauqua. Trish really, she just got an award at the UN for substance abuse, her work in substance abuse, and also an empowerment of women in February. So it was a great honor to go to the UN and see her recognized. And we didn't know it was a small room, probably about this big, but there were 100,000 people watching. So when I gave my speech, they're like, there's 100,000 people. Like, didn't know there were that many people out there in the cyber world. But anyway, Trish got an award just for her efforts, and Trish and Carmela have done a tremendous job. I'll be blunt. When are people going to get the hint, right? Obviously, it's something we'll talk about maybe. We were in Texas at the border. 22 days before we got there, 2,500 pounds of fentanyl came across the border, was apprehended. 2,500 pounds. Where does that go? If you think it doesn't come to Chautauqua County, you're wrong. Last year, we had 62 overdoses in Chautauqua County, overdose fatalities. 60 of them were synthetic opioids. Fentanyl, 60 people. It's claimed the lives of 60 people in Chautauqua County. So we are on the front line, constantly working. We've got some new pieces. I started this a couple years ago. I was on a standing board, standing committee with NISAC for public health, mental health. And my biggest push was having mental health in our schools. Why? Because much like a learning disability, if we are able to treat and diagnose mental health issues at a young age, by the time they're 12, that's the key. Once they're 12, the patterns are already established. Even though the brain and the frontal lobe keeps developing until you're in your mid-20s, those early formative years are so important. So obviously learning how to read and write and do these other things, but you have to diagnose these issues. And part of it is, I look back to when I was growing up, like, did we have this in the 70s and 80s? And why has it manifested itself so much now? I taught for 25 years. I don't remember mental health being that impactful, but it is. But the best thing about that, I shouldn't say best, if you're able to diagnose and treat that, it's much like anything else. It's not a scarlet letter you have for life. You understand it and you treat it. And in some cases, it can be overcome. But mental health issues are huge. You know, and there's so many multitudes. Like I said, we can be here for hours, days. Come back next week and we'll still be talking about mental health. But I think we have a great team. They're attacking the problem. They're not sitting back. You know, we do have a new initiative where we have more social workers in schools. It's a program you're going to hear about in the state of the county. We're launching to where they're employed by the county. They're being trained, but they're working in selected schools. And it's great in the fact that we're actually able to get into the schools and help them help their students. That's what this is about. So it's an ongoing problem, but I think the other piece about this, and this is something, you know, whether you know it or not, if you go in and you say, I want to get help, and you kind of reach the point, the next day you go out, I'm okay, I'm out, I'm done, goodbye. There's nothing mandating people to be in a facility for mental health treatment. You could walk in one day and walk out the next. So when you hear these addiction, Ethan too, you can be picked up and, you know, I'm going to go in and get treatment, and then you can walk out the next day. The sheriff could tell you one of the best sources of addiction treatment is incarceration. That's not what we want, but unfortunately that's where it's at, because there's nothing keeping you into a addiction clinic or substance abuse clinic. You can come in one day and walk out the next. So we're still working. It's something that's, you know, it's on the forefront. We're going to keep plugging away.
I'm going to shift the topic now to some updates on the lakes and waterways. And the first question to come in, I think, is one that's front on everyone's mind as it relates to Chautauqua Lake and the wetland designation. Yeah. So how are you able to address or advocate on that issue with the county?
Chautauqua Lake is a lake is a lake is a lake, and as long as I'm here, it will never be anything other than a lake. You know, if you look, it's kind of absurd, right? You drive down 394 coming into the town of Busti, you see the new Pride wetlands, or Pride, P-R-Y, wetlands. That's a wetland. Swamp, marsh, that right out there, look out the window, that's not a wetland. Now, by technicality, the DEC, okay. Yeah, by technicality, you can balance an elephant on a quarter too, but that's not to say it's really realistic. That's not a wetland. But unfortunately, a lot of misinformation got out, a ton of misinformation got out. I ask you this. Go to the Chautauqua County webpage, go to my site, and you will find a DEC meeting that we had with town supervisors. Don and Jeff were both on it, and they explained it. Cut and dry. I heard the message 3 times, and all 3 times it was the same message. That body of water was declared technically a wetland in 1975, 49 years ago. So, and it's about the depth of the lake, the average depth, and then the amount of underwater vegetation, technically, is what makes it a wetland. But everyone's paranoid. You know, the DEC has said X, Y, and Z. They've said it. They've been constant with their message. Oh, we don't believe them. They're not true. It's going to, you know, so the lake is going to take away our docks, the ability to use a boat. I could see, you know, the harvesting and herbicide issue that maybe we have been told all of those things. The use of your dock, the use of your boat, the use of herbicides and harvesting are exempt from these regulations. Came from the DEC. Now, it's on the video, please watch. Do we hold them to it? Well, they can always change their mind. And what somebody said instinctively was, if there's a new administration, and Basil Sagas, one of the longest cabinet members in the state right now, just left. Sean Mahar is the new acting director of the DEC. Sean was the Chautauqua Lake watchdog in Albany. Don't fool yourself, friends. Albany is always on top of what happens here, always, because everything hits the paper, everything hits the media, you know, all the things that are going back and forth between lake stakeholders. This state is well versed in what's happening here. Likewise, it's another reason why the governor invested $16 million in Chautauqua Lake. Hopefully, with this budget passing, it'll stay there. I'm talking to the senator and assemblyman, and they're fighting to keep it there. But that body of water is huge. We're going to fight again. I talked to Pierre Chagnon yesterday, our chairman, and you know, one of the lake organizations said we need to start a lawsuit. To me, any body of water over 10,000 acres with an average depth of more than 7 feet or 8 feet, heck, let's say 10 feet, is not a wetland. It's a lake. It always and ever will be a lake. You know, so we're going to fight. You know, the owner of the hotel, David Hart, and I actually ironically flew back from Florida. We're on the same flight, and we chatted about it. You know, we're constantly pushing back. So don't think for 1 minute. Just because I'm not throwing a temper tantrum and pounding the pavement doesn't mean we're not fighting. We are. And Julie Barrett O'Neill, the director of DEC in Region 9, talks to me often, always, and we're going to keep pushing the fighting. So it's going to be a lake, always will be.
Related to that, are there any opportunities for permanent funding to restore the health of the lake?
We're looking. Obviously, you know, we started looking at a couple of things. We looked at increasing the occupancy tax that got voted down by the legislature, and several stakeholders said, well, you can't do that. You know, I forget the numbers, they've escaped me right now, but we have several areas where the occupancy tax is 8%. The city has, like for example, the city of Olean has an occupancy tax of 4%. Cattaraugus County has an occupancy tax of 4%. So if you go and stay in downtown Olean, what is there? I mean, I'm not knocking Cattaraugus County, it's a beautiful area, but there isn't much there. Whereas that money, had we increased it by 2%, would have been dedicated to Chautauqua Lake. That was voted down. We looked at a funding source based on property, a taxing format, a district. You know, it got shot down. You know, and it's interesting, the people that vehemently opposed it, you know, we came out and said, well, you guys, we didn't stop it. We just wanted to ask questions. But that's fine, I get it. People worked hard. Do we want to tax our residents more? No. But we're still looking for sources. You know, what is the average? It's between $1.5 and $3 million, depending on what we do with the lake, where we want to go. We're constantly looking for funding. We're going to continue to look for funding. I'm told there's a solid move now for a line item in the state budget every year of $1 million. We'll wait and see if that comes to fruition. But we're going to keep pushing.
So we can't, of course, forget about our other lakes and waterways, and specifically a lot of activity on Lake Erie. So any general updates on our harbors and lakefront across Lake Erie, and then also questions specifically about the new push for windmills in Lake Erie?
Well, you can push all you want. We're not going to push for anything in Lake Erie and the New York side. I know Erie County, PA is looking at something. I haven't talked to Brenton Davis, the county executive down there. We're going to keep fighting it. You know, we don't want to see windmills in Lake Erie. It's ridiculous. You know, if you wanted to put windmills in, one of the thoughts I had is, you know, why can't we put 1,000 windmills in the Gulf of Mexico, right? Turn them on when there's a hurricane, absorb some of the energy. Oh, you can't, because if it goes too fast, you ruin the windmill. Well, what good are they? If you got a 100-mile-an-hour wind, you can crank out several thousand megawatts, right? But can't do it. It's something we're going to block. Something I'm going to push back from. You know, I thought they were majestic at one time, and it's really not. We were also told when I took a tour of the BPU one day with Congressman Langworthy that all of the windmills in New York State were active one day, and they were cranking out energy. 50,000 megawatts. You know how much the Jamestown BPU power plant puts out? 50,000 megawatts, and it's a very small plant. So when every single windmill in New York State was active, we produced as much as Jamestown does. It makes you wonder, those big monstrous things, and now what do you do? There's no way to recycle it. It's really a tough thing. I don't want to see them. We'll push back, and it's something I'll fight with. I know with the senator and the assemblyman to keep them out of Lake Erie, especially in the New York area. Lakes and waterways, you look at, you know, through the help of Congressman Langworthy. And I will say this, great effort. Senator Schumer does really keep Chautauqua County in our forefront. I'll tell you, not to kind of brag on it, but it's, you know, I walked in and he sat down, and we've met each other several times, and he's like, Paul? When did you quit using the name Paul? I said, since I was 3. And he goes, okay, Paul. I'm like, okay, Chuck. And he kind of sat back. I'm like, but no, he's a good advocate. But our congressman did a great thing as well. You know, he got the lion's share of that $7 million we have for the Barcelona Harbor project. If you look, I got to see it in the air the Sunday before the eclipse, and where the vertical profile is. So we have these caissons, these big round steel structures that are kind of at the end of their life expectancy, filled with gravel and cement. When the water hits these in these seiches, and this is things you learn, you know, from kind of like Cliff Clavin moments, the water hits, and then the sediment comes up and over and settles. If you go down there right now in Barcelona Harbor, you see that beautiful area of dirt that wasn't there 4 years ago. Over 2 acres of property has been washed in. So the dredging we did last year was to get that out. We still want to get more of that out. But now what we want to do with Soil and Water and some other groups we're working with is to get the rocks. If you look at where the sediment has deposited, it's on the back side of those vertical profiles, those vertical faces. But we do have some rocks, big, massive riprap they call it, or I call them jetty rocks. If you go to a jetty, these big stones. And those stones dissipate the force of the water, and the sediment comes down through those rocks. So we're looking to focus on that. If you look at the Dunkirk Harbor, right, they have that big rock barricade out there, and it's limited the amount of sediment that comes in. Now, there are still some things we're working on with the Dunkirk Harbor. We've met with Senator Schumer and Congressman Langworthy to get funding to address those issues, and we've got money, so we're excited. We have been focusing on our larger lakes and waterways. More importantly, 10 years ago, this was we had designation from the Army Corps of Engineers to become aquatic ecosystem restoration lake. We finally got $500,000 of funding. That process has already started. We met with the Army Corps last week, maybe 2 weeks ago now. We're moving forward in that. What's done, all the science we've done in the lake for the last several years, Jefferson Project included, and specifically that science, the Army Corps is like, you guys are doing most of the work for us. So it's easier for them to map a strategy out. So that's the focus. We've done harvesting, we've done herbicides, we have not done dredging. I feel confident that's going to be their next recommendation. So we're going to keep pushing that. I'll tell you this, and if you want to make it go on record, I'll go on record. There is no single silver bullet to save and protect, especially this lake, but any lake and waterway. You have to have a multifaceted approach. Herbicides and harvesting are needed in Chautauqua Lake, and also treating and taking care of the sedimentation in Lake Erie. The lakes are draining each other out, so they all flow from one to the other. And we're told that the lake, in Lake Erie, it's at a high level now, and it's going to gradually come down. If we can fix the problem now when it's at its highest, it's going to be much easier when it's lower in 2 to 5 years. So that's our goal right now, and feel confident what I'm hearing. I'm not a scientist or geologist, but the rocks out in front should help prevent that sedimentation from coming in. It's like anything else. If you dig it out and you get all the dirt out, it doesn't help when the dirt washes back in.
Very good. I just want to give everyone a quick time check. We are coming up on 9:30. We scheduled the program 8:30 to 10, so we'll keep asking questions. We got a few more topics to cover.
Feel free, yeah.
But we will make sure that you're on your way to the next meeting by 10. So next question, back to the wardrobe. So you talked about shoes, and the question here astutely noticed my breakfast socks with bacon and eggs. So nice. Do you have any fun socks?
I'll be honest, my family got me sock of the month. And so what it does is it not only tells you what the socks are, but how to wear them. So I was at a conference, and I looked down, and the gentleman, I happened to notice the logo. I'm like, I know where you got those. It's one of those things, right? My biggest pet peeve is mismatched socks. The best thing as an adult, right? Kids, go to school and see how many kids have matching socks. It's insane, right? And they're like, oh, Mr. Wendel, look at yours, they're black. I'm like, exactly. I just grab 2 socks, they match all the time. You don't have to worry about it, right? But to me, it's like an attention to detail. If I look at somebody, you've got 2 different socks on, are you gonna pay attention to your job that well? That usually don't happen at the adult level, but you're hiring a kid. And surprisingly, I've had several students, that have come back and said, Mr. Wendel, I remember that. You look good, you play good. Justin, a former student of mine, and you go in, I always talk, he's like, I have jackets hanging up, just in case. I have a drawer full of ties. We're kind of getting Justin on board too. You never know what's going to happen, But socks, I got sock of the month. I'm excited. Every month I get a new pair of socks. Great. And it tells you how to wear them too, which is really. I did notice that. It matches my tie, well, see?
So you mentioned this in another conversation about your visit to the border. What more can you tell us of what you learned during that visit?
Well, obviously it was controversial, right? A lot of questions is, why are you going down there? We have problems here. We do. We have 100 people that have come here as asylum seekers. And those 100 people came across in one spot, Paso del Norte in El Paso, which is where we were. 20 leaders from across the country were down at the southern border. And we, firsthand, I was touching the wall that ends. Sector 36 in New Mexico just stops. On the other side is a cartel-run community. It's amazing, sad, when you're listening to Border Patrol and you see a mountain in U.S. territory and said the cartel controls that. The people in that New Mexico town are concerned. And I said it to one of the Border Patrol officers. I said, how long before the cartel runs that town? He goes, I'm not going to tell you that. So think about it. You've got American citizens living right now on the border within eyesight of that U.S.-Mexico border. They watch that wall end. The Border Patrol that we talked about and we talked to, they said, we don't come back here at night. This place is like a riot zone. Cartel is very nimble. So they send 100 people over. And what do you think the Border Patrol does? Go after those 100 people. So what do? They send 500 people out around. Since October of this year, 38,000 people have gotten away into the interior of the United States undetected. Now, detected because they do have surveillance cameras on the border, and the Border Patrol says, we have people that watch and count, and they apprehend people. The day we were at the Hardin facility in El Paso, 3,500 detainees were there that day, 3,500. That means they're now asylum seekers. The day we walked through, I counted 2 family units. 2 family units, a mother and some small children. The rest, military-age individuals, however you want to look at it. It's amazing. We cannot afford ankle bracelets, right, Sheriff, to monitor, and the County Executive Edwards can tell you, the monitoring system. They're putting on 100 at a time and saying, you're free to move about the country. We're putting ankle bracelets on people that are coming across this border and saying, please go into the United States, enjoy yourself. We see the record crime that's happening. How can we not be concerned about this? What was interesting enough, we were there with people from California, Arizona, Texas, and they want to find out what's happening at that border to see what they're doing. The woman, Nora from San Diego, said, we're giving them a Cadillac treatment. We need to scale it back to a Toyota because we're giving them too much coming across California. But you know who's coming across the California border? It's not Hispanics, Mexicans, Guatemalans, Colombians, Chinese, Russian, and Haitians, which is unique because Haiti's over in the Atlantic Ocean. So I'm not sure how they're getting over into, coming into the Pacific side. But that's what we're faced with. And why are we there? 6 representatives from New York State. We're the endpoint. They stay here. Nobody stays in El Paso. El Paso, we've been dealing with migration for thousands of years. Yes, you have. We went to one of the original crossings of the Rio Grande. Yeah, you have been. And nobody stays. They come into the interior. They come into our counties. The executive assistant for the mayor of Denver was there. But here's what's been happening. When we ask people, Mark Poloncarz was there, where do you want to get to? I want to get to Utah, but I have to go to New York City. Why? Well, they're going to give me a ticket if I go there. They'll give you a ticket if you leave Texas as well. But the idea right now is you have to go to New York City. No, you don't. So after we had this meeting, after we left, we all sat down, the county executives that were there, some left immediately after our last tour, and we sat and came up with an action plan. And one of the things I said is, we need to tell Mayor Adams he needs to get down to the border. Be proactive. Mayor, go down there and say to Governor Abbott, I'm going to sit here and send a staff member or a staff. If they send 5, 6 staffers down there and it costs them $500,000 a year, that's better than the billions of dollars they're spending in New York City. Be part of the solution. The governor, we need to send staff down there, divert them from coming to New York because they think if you want to go to Tennessee, you got to go to New York City first. Then they'll give you a ticket to Tennessee. No, the federal government is paying for these asylum seekers to go from Texas to Tennessee if that's what they choose. They just don't know anything else. They're told to go to New York City because they're going to take care of you. But what did Governor Abbott say a week ago? Until the mayor and or the governor comes down and deals with the border problem, we're going to send the border problem to them. In our letter, you need to get down there, Mayor. Help out. You know, we were at the Roosevelt Hotel last July, and I sat next to the mayor before the State of the State address. He said, you won't believe what that place looks like now. It's just an influx, because they think everybody needs to go to New York. They don't. You can go from El Paso. If you want to go to Utah, this woman wanted to go to Utah to find her son. He's located there. They will give you a ticket, bus, plane. When I left El Paso, it's indicative. Everybody has very plain, like Hanes sweatsuits, you know, teal, orange, yellow, gray, white. And then they have matching sweatpants and then Crocs. Everybody knows who the asylum seekers are. And it's interesting, then they have their ankle band and then they're getting on a plane. It's challenging. Is the border closed? No, it's wide open. I'll say it. I was there. Somebody posted on Facebook, I watched the other day, said, well, you can't say the border's wide open because we need a passport. We need all these things to get into the United States. Yes, we do. People coming across illegally don't. One of the gentlemen that was with us is Mark Henry. He's a retired U.S. Border Patrol official. Up in Clinton County is 20 minutes. He said from his house to Montreal, Canada is a 20-minute ride. The border is easy to get into Canada. From Mexico, you can get into Canada much easier than flying into the United States. So they're flying into Canada, and then they're coming across the northern border. They're finding people dead in swamps that they don't know there's water. They're dying of hypothermia, or they're making it across. Families have woken up in Clinton County to find a migrant family asylum seeking sitting in their living room or in their shed or in their garage. They've made it, nobody tells them that it's just it. These mules, these human traffickers, you're on your own, go find somebody. But they pay thousands of dollars. There's a 3-strike rule. So for every investment or ticket you buy from the cartel, I wouldn't trust them, but you have 3 times to get across the border. If you're apprehended twice, you have 1 more time. If not, if you're apprehended 3 times and brought back, you have to pay them more money to get back over. Very lucrative system. But what we also said is the cartel is very nimble. They're not like the US government. In order to get something done, we have to go through Congress. Cartels don't. You need $10 million to get people across? We'll give you $10 million. 1 or 2 cartel kingpins can do that. You can't do that here. You know, it's startling. We have, Sheriff, how many miles? 50 miles maybe of border? The whole northern, the northern part? Yeah, the whole northern part of Chautauqua County is an international border. Will it be time before we see these? We have Operation Stone Garden. We do have an agreement with the government that we are patrolling that, but it's a large area. What can we take away? We need to put badges on the border. If you go down to this hardened facility, 6 football fields long, there's 2 of them. They can hold up to 10,000 detainees. And they're not there long. They're there for maybe 24 hours and they're sent out to other areas to move around the country or to travel through the country. But in that area, the people that are processing them, Border Patrol agents with guns. No. Get the Border Patrol agents on the border protecting the border. What's sad is U.S. Border Patrol says, County Executive, we don't go back to this place at night. It's a riot, it's a war zone. Our own U.S. government doesn't protect the border. They're afraid of what they're seeing. We're one of the only countries, if not the only country in the world, that does not protect its border with its military. Yes, we have the U.S. Border Patrol, they're great. 60% of their aircraft are down due to maintenance. When they hire Border Patrol officers, they have to be aviation mechanics in some cases, or they have to be auto mechanics because they have to fix their own equipment. There isn't enough money. And of course, we had one of our colleagues wonder, well, if they would have passed the budget, this bill from the, come on. We need to be sensible with this. You can't throw money at the problem. We need to make an investment to stop this. That's how this happens. We need to stop because drugs are coming across. Fentanyl is not processed in the United States. If you watch the news, Chinese are encouraging their fentanyl producers, the precursors, the entry. You can get subsidized by the Chinese government as long as you sell it outside of China. Well, that's a novel, right? You can sell it, don't sell it here. I mean, we have to take a stand on this. And I know it's troubling for some people. Some people say, why did you do that? You know, we have 100 people. The people, and I've seen the documents from our individuals that came here, are asylum seekers. And it said El Paso, Paso del Norte. And I talked to the boots on the ground. We've had 100 people come in. Half of them have left and gone back. And another half have come in to replace them. And through the kindness and generosity of so many people in this great community, we have assisted those people. They're working, they're trying to get, they're trying to make means for their family. And that's commendable, right? They're doing jobs that maybe some Americans that don't want to. But at the same time, there are processes that have to be followed to get in. And it's a controversial situation, let's face it. But, we all came across, we had several action plans we sent to the governor, we sent to our senators, our congressmen, our congressional delegation, the president. But we need to get engaged. And again, why New Yorkers? Because we're the end point. And just like, the mayor of Denver, they said they would wake up in 3 and 6 buses showing up. We need to work together.
So for the last piece of our conversation, let's shift to economic development efforts, and the foundation perhaps of economic development starts with infrastructure, right? So do you have any sort of general county infrastructure updates? Yeah,
so 40 years ago, there was a decision made about the lake, or public sewer around the lake, and it stopped, it halted. I can gladly say, and I know Mr. Emhart is here today, phase 3, what we believe is the last and final leg of the sewer around Chautauqua Lake, has been discussed, and there's now engineering studies. We began to look at what is needed to finish that. And by engineering means, do we pump it to Mayville, which is the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District, and do we have to increase the capacity there, or can we pump it down to the South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer District right down here in Celeron? But proud to say that's the last leg. I told Raleigh Kidder, I talked to him, I think last year Christmas, I'm gonna get a gold coupling and I'm gonna spray paint it gold. It's kind of like, the meeting of the East and West and the railroad, Promontory Point, you have that golden stake they pounded, and I want to get that golden coupling, and I want to make sure Raleigh's there, because this is something he's been championing for years. And make no mistake about it, Pierre Chagnon was director of the sewer district then when they first started this, and it is his goal to get that completed now as the chairman of the legislature. So we're excited about that. We're looking at infrastructure. Obviously, you saw we had another boil water order in Fredonia. They are working at that. The county has been instrumental in assisting, giving scientific data and facts to support that. It's the decision of the village of Fredonia, what they want to do, but we're there to assist. Water infrastructure is huge. We're broadband. DFT is with us today, so we're looking at our broadband at the end of, I think, 2026 or 2027. And the reason we say that long is because the state has New York Connects money that we're trying to get out. Mark Geis has been instrumental in that with our IDA. But we will have broadband or internet service to every household in Chautauqua County. I think that's huge. So how do we bring people here to work remotely? You have solid internet, you have solid broadband connection. That's our goal. In the next 2 years, that's what we want to see happening. We're working hard, we're working feverishly. DFT is already moving on their portion. Charter Spectrum has the other part of this, so we're working with them and getting that out too. So broadband, internet, again, getting back to some energy things, I think it's really disappointing that for some reason our governor and her predecessor feels that natural gas is some sort of pollutant, usable source of energy. We are the birthplace of natural gas. Fredonia, New York was the first site of the first natural gas well. So therefore I call us the birthplace of natural gas. Why we did not switch over those 2 turbines at the NRG plant using natural gas, which we have an abundance of underneath our feet, without having to frack and cause huge, ecological damage, we could be producing energy, and the city of Dunkirk would be in a much better place. But it's a decision. I don't understand it. But they fail to tell you that we're going to go to all electric. Well, New York City is being powered by one of the dirtiest coal-fired power plants in the country. Still, where do we get some of our energy? From a coal-burning power plant. We need to get on reliable sources. I'm not confident that solar and wind will supply us. It's proven it's not there yet. And the fact that we're pushing, electric, we don't have the infrastructure. You talk to anybody in the business. We just don't have the infrastructure for electric to power what we need to power. The CLCPA is, the state says, well, we want to create an initiative, we're going to make it a law, we're going to force everybody to do it. That crazy governance, but that's what happened. We're working with the BPU, we're working with other energy producers to try to, help out as much as we can. But interestingly enough, their schools, you have to buy electric buses. Okay. So they said, well, what happens when we lose power? Well, you got diesel generators, don't you? Okay, use your diesel generator to power your electric buses. Interestingly enough, does anybody ever notice a school bus? Where's the exhaust go in a school bus? Out the back, right? About what? 2-3 feet high? What's 2 or 3 feet high? Children. So we're not focused on public buses. Where is all the exhaust supposed to go? Up, vertically. We're going to send the exhaust up. We don't do that in school buses. School buses can come out the back where we can pollute the children. Why don't we just try putting that up? Let's try for a while, the buses we have, let's try to pass legislation to get that exhaust to go up instead of out the back where we're going to pollute our children. We don't even talk about that. We don't even talk about the effects. We're just saying, well, we have to go to electric. And we know here in Western New York that electric is not going to be sustainable. Double the cost of the bus. And so we're going to subsidize you. We're going to pay you to do it. Okay. Taxpayer dollars, it's not really bribery, but we'll pay for you to get the bus. If you can't do it yourself, we'll give you money, then you can buy the bus. It's crazy. Maybe push, gradually bringing that on, but this abrupt piece that they want to do, it's just not there. And the infrastructure, unfortunately, with power isn't there. Water, gas, we're confident. Sewer, we're going to be good there. So that's kind of, I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I mean, there's a lot of great things. This sewer thing is huge. I mean, I can't tell you how exciting this is. That we'll finally get this. This is a 40-year venture. And the water in the village of Fredonia, they're excited too. So a lot of and internet. We're going to have everybody served with internet and broadband. So exciting news. But
on a related to infrastructure and travel, what are your thoughts on a potential Amtrak stop in Chautauqua County?
So we were told 2 years ago there will be an Amtrak stop in Chautauqua County. Exciting, great news. Okay, there was a push. We were told it was going to be in Westfield, and we were told it was going to be in Dunkirk. And then Amtrak came in and said, nah, we're not going to have it anywhere. Do we need it? It'd be great. The downside of this, and this is where it's frustrating for us, right? We are nestled. I'm not sure if there's a train station in Erie. Somebody can help me. I don't know. But between Cleveland and Buffalo, so there is. So you get up enough energy to get to Chautauqua County, then you got to slow down. Then you got to build up again to go to Buffalo. Then you got to slow down, and then you can get on to the rest of the state. So it's challenging. Can it be done? Yeah, it can be done. There could be a commuter rail. I know when Athenex was on or started to be built, I know there was a push to get an Amtrak run between Buffalo and Dunkirk, so we could have employees go back and forth. That is nothing to do with the county. We have no bearing. We support it wherever they want to bring it. Wherever it's most suitable, bring it to Chautauqua County. We'll embrace it. We'll use it. But that's an Amtrak decision. At the end of the day, that's who finally made the decision. It wasn't any bearing on who wanted it where, to the Westfield group or the Dunkirk group. No, it wasn't anything to that. Amtrak said, we're not going to bring it there. Sorry, guys. Don't mean to burst your bubble. We got you excited for nothing. But we'll do it. Whoever wants to, whatever they want to bring it, we're going to be excited. It be used. I know a lot of college kids. It's an easy commute. You got to. I know our staff takes it to, once in a while. They've taken it to the NISAC conference in Albany. It takes a while. It's not hopping in your car. It's not going to get you there in 4 or 5 hours. It's a couple of stops along the way. If you want a nice scenic drive, take the bus. Take the bus, or take the train rather. But it takes a while. But we'll support it. We'll support it.
Our last question, I think this came from Jason Sample. But no, I'm just kidding, Jason. I'm very excited about the county's Live CHQ campaign with your talented developmental partner organizations. The question, so I think you could talk a little bit about that, but also how can all of us, businesses and organizational leaders in the community, help the county and support this campaign?
Spread the word. Click and share it. Jason's got it all set up. Click share. I've done that on my own personal Facebook, and I get hits all the time. So I'm going to break. So, okay, I'm going to give my rally right now. So Sheila's here, right? Sheila's in the back. Sheila's husband came up to me after and said, you know what, County Executive, I felt like I was at a revival. Well, you're going to get that piece right now. This right now, Live CHQ, Choose CHQ, is a massive event taking place in Chautauqua County. People have said, population decline has been going on for years, County Executive. What are you going to do about it? We are. I've got off my backside, so is the IDA, and we're making the movement to get people back to Chautauqua County. We're going to tell their story. We're going to tell the story about Chautauqua County. We're going to tell them what we have. Who came from Chautauqua County? Lucille Ball, Robert H. Jackson. So many famous people. Mr. Emke, the tarp skunks, the baseball tarp started with a native of Chautauqua County. People don't realize that. We've had phenomenal people in Chautauqua County. But I've said this before, the weather goes from the west to the east. And I said it earlier, the population decline went from the west to the east. Well, now population increase is going to start and go from the west to the east. It's going to start right here in Chautauqua County because of us. Okay, I've been using this again, third time in a row. Brian Pender, we're going to call you out again in a great way. Brian Pender came up to me at an event and said, County Executive, there's several families that have moved back to the area. We get together, we have events, we talk, we get young professional families who found Chautauqua County as a home. Kirk Young, you'll see in one of the videos. Kirk Young moved his family here from Utah. Brought him here, why? Because they saw Chautauqua County as an exciting place. I'm a product of that. In 1977, I came here, I haven't left. This is a phenomenal thing we have here in Chautauqua County. Make your story, choose your story right here in Chautauqua County. People come here to escape. They come here to escape Toronto and Chicago. You would not believe, again, I said this the other day, we were talking to families. When I was in Texas, a gentleman from Washington came up to me and he goes, hey, Chautauqua County, isn't the institution there? Well, they say the institute, so John's here. It's Chautauqua Institution. It's an institution. It's not an institute. It's an institution. It's so much more. And that's just one piece of Chautauqua County. We have the Comedy Center. And, we start talking. The next gentleman, Senator Barella, was at an event with Governor Abbott. And Governor Abbott said, oh, Chautauqua County? Yeah, the institution, right? I have a great friend. I travel there often. Who knew? Who knew the number of people that come into Chautauqua County, flying in and out of our airport, who come here to escape or to hide? Tremendous amount of people. Professional athletes, professionals, people, dignitaries. Several cabinet members from several administrations in Washington come here to Chautauqua County. Obviously our own Roger Goodell, has a house, the Goodell House has a home right in the institution grounds. But what CHQ, Live CHQ does is it celebrates and tells our story. It tells about all the good things we have here in Chautauqua County. We could say, oh, look at the negativity. You don't have to go far to find it. Thank you, Greg Bacon. He picked up this quote, and I'm going to use it. This is my motto. I've given out a book to my staff, again with Colin Powell. Perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. That's never going to leave my mind. Perpetual optimism, a force multiplier. We are going to move the needle on bringing people back to Chautauqua County. There's no two ways about it. Is it easy? No. Is it going to happen overnight? No. Just like the decline didn't happen overnight. But we are going to bring people back. I reached out to a local business. They've been here 50 years. I said, how do we increase your capacity? How do we expand what you're doing in Chautauqua County? He said, let me explain to you what you're doing. So this business who came here 50 years ago now, it'll be 50 years this summer, they have a huge corner of the market. Well, what's happened is they don't need to expand their footprint and make their facility bigger, because what they've done is they've utilized space inside their facility. Cummins Engines started out, no engines were made there in the 1970s. Then they started building engines by hand. When I left there, I worked on the assembly line. 215 engines a day. Now, I can't do the same job 215 times a day. I had to put 16 bolts into a gear housing. Put me to sleep on my feet. That's just me. Right now, the capacity is 500 engines a day. And those engines don't sit on a shelf. They stay and they leave the plant within 24 to 48 hours, and they're shipped to a customer. Now they have an expansion for another 200 engines, 700 engines a day. All of that goes in. So in 1994, they were 200. Now they could be up to 700. And they haven't changed the footprint outside. They've just utilized the space better. Right up over here, if you're going down Jackson Avenue, the old Quality Warehouse, for those of us who've been here for a while, that's now occupied by Regal and Cummins Engine. They have a Kanban system. What that is, it's an Asian system of keeping your supply on demand. Whenever you need it, you bring it up to the plant. Instead of manufacturing and stockpiling things around the plant, they put it down here in this warehouse. When we need 25 more crankshafts, we bring them up. When we need more pistons and whatever you need, they bring up and supply so they can utilize the space within the plant. Phenomenal. They've increased their capacity, increased productivity, but haven't increased their footprint. Some great things to come. But we are making moves in Chautauqua County. Wells Ice Cream. Anybody remember? Vince can tell you. Last year, 2 years ago, laying off 300 people. It's been bought by a new company. Hint, if you ever want to buy Ferrero Rocher, you'll help Wells Ice Cream if you buy Ferrero Rocher. Mr. Ferrero owns the ice cream company. Has made an investment to increase the capacity, increase the footprint in Dunkirk, and bring back those jobs that we lost. Why are they doing that? Because we have a solid workforce, because we have a story to tell here in Chautauqua County. We could tell the negative one, but over my dead body will I ever do it? I'm the best cheerleader for Chautauqua County. It's the best part about this job. I can tell everybody about how great Chautauqua County is, and we're going to. Jason, Mark, the entire crew, Nate, everybody involved with the IDA and the Partnership for Economic Growth, Live CHQ, Choose CHQ, is a massive undertaking, but I ask everyone to embrace it. Spread the word. It's like anything else. We are the best ambassadors. Spread the word, get the information out, share it with all your friends, get everybody to come back, tell your story. Let your story of excitement, fun, and memories start with when I was in Chautauqua County. Thank you. Little stump speech.
County Executive, I think that's like the perfect closing remarks, and
Crescendo.
This is a little more eloquent than I am, but I was going to ask after the Jackson Center event if you had like drank a Red Bull right before.
Not at all. No. And no, I didn't. I just, you know what? It's exciting. How can you not be excited about that? Like I said, Harry from the Comedy Center, we were talking one day. I said, hey, and it just came across, and they said they were doing this video, and they said they got 2-minute video and 30-second video and 15-second. I said, boy, it'd be nice if we could show these videos on those 2 massive screens in front of the Comedy Center. I'm not telling you what to do, but really kind of help us out. So we'll see. Pull on their chain, Jason. We'll get over there. But exciting.
Very good. Well, thank you again to our guest today, Chautauqua County Executive PJ Wendel.
Thank you.
Brief updates from us, and to hit on Live CHQ from the Chamber perspective as well. At the Chamber, we are local business connectors, and we are local business champions, and we are so excited as well to be a partner with the county, the IDA, the Partnership for Economic Growth, all of the other partners to shine a positive light on our area and what opportunities are here. So thank you all for that work. Just to hit you with a few upcoming events to get on your radar from the Chamber. On April 29th, we will have our Small Business Week recognition with a proclamation from the county executive here at Bridgeota's, celebrating a major milestone anniversary from them with our partners at the Small Business Development Center. So please look for news on that. We have our state legislative breakfast coming up May 10th. You'll notice this year's schedule, we typically have started the year with our state legislative breakfast. We've had some challenging timelines with late budgets the last few years, and it seems like today it was a good decision to flip-flop and have the county executive here in April. And so that will be at Chautauqua Suites. Please join us there. And I mentioned earlier our next Business After Hours networking event coming up May 15th at Music for Your Mouth in Mayville. Come have some fun with us, see what question we come up with, and that event is free for Chamber members, by the way. So we hope to see you there. Again, your attendance today is a huge support for us and the reason why we do what we do. Thank you again to the county executive. A big thank you to the Harbor Hotel as well. I neglected to acknowledge their team, but please give a round of applause to the Harbor Hotel.
So if you attend the event next week at Bridgeota's, please look along the wall in the deli. They have a little piece of history there. Clerk, Kathy Hochul. I'm not sure how they had it, something, but she was a clerk at the time from, I think, in Erie County. But there was something that she signed as clerk. So a little piece of history hanging right there in Bridgeota's, you know.
Very good. So we hope to see you soon. And thank you again to the county executive, and have a great Friday and a great weekend. Thanks. Hope your breakfast. Oh, they took your breakfast.
That's okay.